Hey crew, it's Pitt, and I am back with some more Esoterica. Today we are diving back into the works of Hiram Butler. This is The Goal of Life. We are up to Chapter 8. We are reading along and discussing as we go along the various points of interest that are brought to light by the text. It is not the format for everybody, but some people seem to find enjoyment in it, so you are more than welcome to tag along. Before we begin, however, if you are unfamiliar with me, any of my unconventional beliefs, or if at any point in time I lose you in the terminology, there will be several playlists linked in the corner above, in the box down below, along with the original source material, so that you can get a better understanding of who I am and what I stand for. Of particular note, almost certainly, today is going to be the unconventional Bible study once again, because we are going to be dealing with something that is almost certainly going to step on some toes. I have a tendency to step on toes, and God knows they are getting more and more under my feet these days. So let us dig in and begin our discussion of the great name Yahweh. Yahweh, or however they pronounce it. I know how I pronounce it, but that's a little bit different than them. Chapter 8, the great name Yahweh. We have seen in preceding chapters that the physicists have searched diligently into the character and nature of matter from a physical standpoint, but in their last analysis, vis-a-vis their investigations into the molecule, atom, ion, and electron, and their deductions that, after all, the smallest particles of matter may be only centers of force, they have invaded the realm of the metaphysical. At this point, the physicist stops to look around him for a base, a substantial foundation, to which he may unite his forces with the metaphysicians in pursuit of causation. If we assume the task to find that base, that center, and herein present it, it will necessitate investigations into that broad field of thought that has been dominated revelation, as well as investigations into nature. We have assumed the existence of God, of an intelligent, creative mind power that is able to cause to be, and, as we shall see in the following chapters, to bring into existence mind centers, to be the expression of its own nature, or, in other words, mind centers through which this universal mind expresses itself. That is part of what I call the Trinity, right? Let's go ahead and hit it right off the top. I don't see the Trinity as it is normally seen. It is the body, the soul, and the spirit working in unison in order to do this, right? The mind center that he is describing here, I call the soul. It is the individualized piece of the Creator that makes the decisions for you in this corporal reality. Theology has gathered around the word revelation so much debris that it is necessary first to clear away the rubbish in order to get at the real meaning. Revelation, in its essence, means simply an angel hand placing in a dark and dangerous passage a bright light. From this, we assume that there is an angel, an intelligent being, who would cause us to know that which is necessary to be known in order that we may avoid pitfalls and dangerous errors, and that our mind may grow into the divine likeness, into the likeness of its source. If we were passing through a dark and dangerous passage, and a hand placed there a light, should we, like the moth, be so absorbed into the existence of the light that we stumble and fall and perhaps destroy ourselves? No. As intelligent beings understanding the use of light, instead of looking at the lamp, we look around us and examine our pathway, and the light reveals to us the condition that surrounds us. This, then, is an illustration of what revelation is. And all revelation from the beginning of the world down to the present time is nothing more, nothing less than a light in a dark place. One of the greatest lights that has ever been set in this dark world is the revelation of the meaning of the great name of God. Revelation is revealing, right? It is showing something that was hidden, not necessarily placing a light in the darkness, right? You can make a revelation as a discovery. We have made plenty of discoveries, right? And you can look at that as a light in the darkness. Yes, I understand that, but it doesn't necessarily have to have been divinely placed by an angel. That is an assumption, right? I happen to agree with that assumption, but it is an assumption. Modern usage gives a mere word sound to represent an object, but in divine order, a name expresses quality. In the meaning of the great name of God is the light that illuminates the dark passage between the material world and the world of metaphysics, or the world of mind. The great name of God was known from the earliest history of man to the time when Moses was called to deliver Israel from Egyptian bondage. But, like the name of the present day, it was to those early people only a word sound or an appellation referring to a certain deity. But when Moses was commissioned to deliver Israel, he was not given the name only, but he was given to know the meaning also. As we shall see further on, I will be very interested to see that happen, because what happened in Exodus is a lot different than most people's interpretation of what happened in Exodus. You can refer back to see what I am talking about, but I do not in any way agree with the current interpretations of that story. The name Yahweh, translated Jehovah, a few times, occurs many times throughout the Hebrew Scriptures and is translated Lord and God. But in order to distinguish this, the name of God, from the other names of God in the Authorized Version, the translators have nearly always put it in capitals. Concerning the name Yahweh, we give the following references. And God said to Moses, I will be that which I will be. And he said, Thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, I will be, hath sent me unto you. Not necessarily what he sent was the I am. Right? I have a whole video on the I am. You are more than welcome to check that out. And God said unto Moses, I am that I am. Hebrews, Eya Asherayah. And he said, Thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, I am, has sent me unto you. That this passage is intended to indicate the etymology of Jehovah is, as understood by the Hebrews, no one has ventured to doubt. It is certainly the fact that the key to the whole mystery. But, though it certainly supplies the etymology, the interpretation must be determined from other considerations. Jehovah must be the third person, singular masculine, future, of the substantive verb hayah, to be. We accept Yahweh as the more probable pronunciation. Dictionary of the Bible, Dr. William Smith. All right, let's stop. We're going to go ahead and do this, right? Yahweh is not the word as presented here. It is not YHVH, right? It is YHVH. And that is 4 vowels in the Israeli language. It is not a consonant. There are no consonants in it. It is that way intentionally so that it is the unpronounceable name of God. You are not meant to be able to speak it correctly. That doesn't mean that it's impossible. It just means that you're probably wrong. I'm probably wrong. You're probably wrong. Everybody's probably wrong in it. But the closest approximation that you can actually get to it is Yahweh. You got that? Yahweh. Like, no hard sounds whatsoever. It is a flowing of the breath. That is the I am statement. This same word is the word used in Genesis when he said, let there be. It is Yahweh, light. Yahweh, the separation of the waters. That is what it is. It is also it is good. It is the same sound. Yahweh. That is the sound of creation. Again, I refer back to the I am video, but it is important to note before we get any further into his explanation of this pronunciation that he's not even probably pronouncing it right. The V is not a hard V, right? It is Yahweh. It is a soft sound. It is a continuous breath. It is no hard stopping at all, and that is intentional. It is meant not even to be able to be written, because in the Hebrew language, when you write the words, you leave out the vowels. This name is entirely consisting of the vowels that are left out of what is written. All right, back to the text. Although we may not be able to give with perfect certainty the literal meaning of this name, again, refer back, yet at least we will no longer designate it by the barbarous form Jehovah, which was produced only 3 centuries ago through Christian aggravation of a Jewish superstition. He's talking about Kabbalah. But we will restore its real sound, Have. Were it only as a sign that Hebrew antiquity is now springing up among us out of the grave of ages, endowed with fresh life. That is a closer pronunciation, right? Have. Heinrich Ewald, History of Israel, translated by Russell Martineau. So far as the interests of criticism are concerned, all scholars are now agreed. Jusinius and Ewald on the side of the philologists, Hengstenberg, Tholuck, Lutz, etc., on the side of the theologians, are united for once. They all agree in giving it the form Yahweh, and the future tense as its literal rendering, Yahweh Christ, by Alexander McWhorter. Now, that is a self-insertion. These quotations show that scholars are to a great extent agreed as to the pronunciation of the name, that some have even discovered its true surface meaning, and that the name relates to the one God, the God of the universe, the all-pervading Spirit. We read in Exodus 3, 13, 14, and 15. The sound of manifestation is Yahweh, right? We've talked about this extensively, so I'm not really going to hit it too hard, but it does indeed relate to the all-pervading Spirit, which is the becoming, right? The Trinity, the body, the soul, and the Spirit. The Spirit is the becoming. It is the part that changes what is into what is coming. So this does make sense. It is indeed, speaking of future tense, becoming the present tense. It is speaking into existence. That is what the word literally is. And Moses said unto God, Behold, when I come unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, The God of your fathers hath sent me unto you, and they shall say unto me, What is his name? What shall I say unto them? That's because they didn't have a God of their fathers. And God said unto Moses, I will be what I will be. I am what I am. And he said, Thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, I will be what I will be, hath sent me unto you. The I am that is I am sent me unto you. And God said moreover unto Moses, Thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, The Lord God, Yahweh Elohim, of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, hath sent me unto you. This is my name forever, and this is my memorial unto all generations. The 14th verse is intended to present to Moses the true signification of the divine name, the name of the all-pervading, all-intelligent God of the universe. But the words capitalized and translated in the Authorized Version, the I am that I am, are given in the Revised Version of the Old Testament in three different ways. I am because I am, or I am who I am, or I will be that I will be. The last form is undoubtedly the most correct. Refer again to the word study in the book of Genesis. Surely, to anybody that accepts the scriptures as authority, the words, This is my name forever, and this is my memorial unto all generations, are plain enough that this is the name, and the only name, applying to God, and that all other forms are incorrect. Whew. There are many evidences that this name began to be known to the other nations about the time of Moses, and in the 4th verse of the 2nd chapter of Genesis, the name occurs the first time. Then, we are dealing with the order of Melchizedek. That is what brought me into this study, this reading of this book, and so I can almost guarantee you that at some point in time, we are going to shit all over this, right? Melchizedek existed as the priest of Salem prior to Moses. And he did not serve the same God as the Israelites. Then what we may understand as the meaning of the words in Exodus 6, 2 and 3, And God spake unto Moses, and said unto him, I am Yahweh, and I appeared unto Abraham, unto Isaac, and unto Jacob, by the name of the God Almighty, Hebrew, El Shaddai. But by my name, Yahweh, was I not known to them? The declaration here that the children of Israel did not know God's name must inevitably imply that whilst they knew it and used the word, they did not know its meaning, nor the fullness of its import, and that this revelation to Moses was a revelation of the true meaning and import of the divine name. For surely a word sound has no value of itself, and this word sound, it seems, was known and used by other people, as well as by Israel. That is almost certainly true. But when we take the meaning of the word Yahweh as I will be what I will to be, it brings to us a potentiality, a power, all unknown to the world, even at the present time. For the name carries with it the thought that he who spoke the word and caused the world to form and to produce itself by the potency of the infinite mind, did so by the power of his will. And when we, as creatures of the earth, muse upon the signification of that name, the I will, or the second part of it, to be what I will to be, or as I will to be, we get a realization of that unlimited power, and a certainty that there is no power in the world, nay, in the universe, but the power of the will. That is true. Since it is accepted by the Christian world that man is the offspring of the Almighty, it follows that man, being made in the image of God, has attributes similar to those of his Creator, his Father. Yes. When man's will has been surrendered, yea, rather has been united to the divine will, then man and God become one, for the mind of man is nothing. It has no power of action without the will. Man always does that which he wills to do, although sometimes there are found in the man two wills active at the same time. The will of the flesh, or the will arising from the impulses, desires, and passions, and a will that arises from the conclusions of the reasoning faculties. But whatever will controls the person, that the person is for the time being, for the will decides all that a person is. If we accept the statement that each organ of the brain is the seat of a separate faculty, then we may say that all the faculties of the brain are like a congress of persons in conference with one another, and that the will, the supreme power, positioned in the center and upper part of the brain, is the king, or president, or the executor of the decisions of all faculties. That is, you inside of your brain. In the same manner, we may say that the divine will is King of kings and Lord of lords. It is the potency that holds all worlds and systems of worlds in their places, that governs all life upon them and gives direction and potentiality to all forms of existence, and to all laws manifested in nature. It is because of this that man, in his return to God, is taught to pray, "Let thy will be done." Or in other words, this prayer means that the desire of the heart must be that the will of the finite becomes the will of the infinite. When man has become absolutely subordinate to the divine will, then it will be correct to say of him, as was said of the angel that was sent to Aaron when the children of Israel were about to enter the promised land, "My name is in him." For as soon as the man unites his will, his desire, and his purpose in life with God, he is one with him. God's name is in him. God's will is his will. He moves under the potentiality and power of that will, and to all intents and purposes the will becomes the man. In other words, the infinite mind and its conclusions, which are the purpose concerning man in the creation of the world, become the will of the man. Thus, man becomes the manifestation of God, of Yahweh. As we shall see hereafter, those who were wholly consecrated to God and had reached high attainments in their unity with the Father were called Yahweh by Moses. I'm going to need references for that. Jesus, the Christ, said, "I and my Father are one." Yes, he did say that, and that is misinterpreted all the time. We know that our Christian brethren, have thinking upon this without further light, have concluded that Christ was one of the triune Godhead. True and false at the same time. This is true because God has a threefold manifestation. First, as the Father or producer of all that is, the Creator. Second, as the Holy Spirit, translated the Holy Ghost, the active agency. Third, as manifested in human form, the Son of God. Kinda, but not quite. We read of Christ that he was manifest so that he might bring many sons unto God. Again, he said in regard to that oneness in his notable prayer, "Neither pray I for these alone, but for them also which shall believe on me through their word, that they all may be one. As thou, Father, art in me, and I in thee, that they also may be one in us." Here Jesus makes it plain that there are not many gods, but one. But there are many manifestations of God in the form of his sons. Yes, we are all each an equally divine spark of the Creator. None of us in and of ourselves are divine. None of us are gods, even though some people will tell you that. But you are an individualized piece of God. The soul, the part that makes the decisions for you in the meat, that is God. Now, the part that allows that to happen is the third piece of the triune. It is the Spirit, but it is not correct in the way that it is interpreted in Christianity, in my opinion. I have 161 videos detailing that, so before you come at me, watch. But as soon as man becomes truly a son of God, his will becomes one with the Father's will. Thus they are no more two, but one. For all there is of life, of existence, of being, is the mind. For God produced all things by a word, vis-a-vis, a thought formed in the mind, a decision reached and sent out by the force of the will, endowing the thought form with potentiality, capable of working out and bringing into manifestation the thing decided upon. Yes, he gave you that power. Jesus told you that. Jesus was the last messenger who stood before the world as the ultimate embodiment of that creative word, a finished man, a son of God, a man in whom God was incarnated and through whom he found complete expression. As Christ said, "I can do nothing of myself. The Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works." It's amazing how, if you just read the text, it will actually tell you what it means. Thus, the name of God is the name of the divine attribute or active agency that produced all manifestations and lies beyond, beneath, and overrules all action. Here, words fail to express fully the deep, comprehensive meaning of that great name. But he that would be wise and strong and godlike should muse upon the signification of this wondrous name of God of the universe, Yahweh, the "I will be what I will to be." We have here endeavored to give a little of the history of that wondrous name and of its relatedness to the active agency in the human organism. But the world is in the habit of looking to authority. And if the authority for a thought, according to its judgment, is found insufficient, the thought is thrown aside as worthless. Sorry, it's a high pollen day. Like it's fall, it's high pollen pretty much every day. But authority for a thought, according to its judgment, is found insufficient. The thought is thrown aside as worthless. But we wish to impress upon the reader that the authority for this name in itself amounts to nothing. We have likened revelation to a light. A mere authority has no light in it, but the thought embodied in the word formation is the light. In carefully examining our own bodies, we find that we cannot move a muscle without the consent of the will, the spirit. We find that while physiologists discourse very learnedly about the mechanical structure of the voluntary and involuntary muscles of the human organism, yet the real factor is not understood. What physiologist has been able to describe the modus operandi of the mind and the will upon the muscular system? A dead body has no power to use its muscles. Electricians have experimented upon the bodies of men, just executed, and have been able to cause them to throw the limbs about in a reckless, uncertain manner. But they applied the power outside of and beyond the power of the mind. This power has no knowledge or order to guide it. Experiment with your own body. Take hold of an object weighing 10, 20, or 50 pounds and lift it by bending your arm. Observe carefully where the power comes from. By careful observation, you will find that the power is in the brain. Not quite, but still more careful analysis, you will find that the power is in the will. That's closer. We will, and then we act, or we will to act. Herein is the manifestation of the name of God in our own organism. Whence did we get that willpower, that power to act? From the creative source, did we not? Certainly. As we look out into the broad realm of nature, we see the noble horse pulling a great load. We see his muscles contract and expand. What power is it that is pulling the load? Yahweh, the will of the universe. This power is one manifestation of the great name, but as we shall consider in succeeding chapters, its manifestation in all its wondrous ramifications, we wish here only to impress upon the mind of the reader the force and function of the will, of that revealed power, the I will be what I will be. So, some of this is correct and some of it not so much. Right? We talk about the Trinity, we hit it, we talked about it, right? It's the body, the mind, and the soul. Or the body, the soul, and the spirit. That is the three. You have control of the body. You get to decide, I want to wiggle my fingers. But you don't make that happen. Right? The individualized piece of you that is the divine spark, the soul, that resides inside of you. I point here, but it actually moves up and down as according to need. We talk about that also. You make the decision, but that electromagnetic energy, the part that you don't have control of, but you can take partial control of, that is the spirit, right? That is the becoming. It is the part that takes the air and changes it into the various things that you need in your body. It is the part that tells your heart to beat. It is the part that makes your lungs expand when you are asleep. It is the part that when you make the decision, I want to bend my finger, that is what makes it happen. That's what he's talking about here. That is external from you. That's a hard concept to wrap your mind around, but it is true. You don't have the agency to physically move without the electromagnetics of existence. The name Yahweh is, this one's going to step on some toes, but the actual pronunciation of that is not even vowels. It is more of a sound. It is the sound of creation. And when you have been external of yourself, you will hear that sound. You will know what it is. It's wow. It's the sound of magnetics. I have a whole video where we talk about this, right? In the I Am video, as a matter of fact, I believe it's in there. But the fundamental harmonics of life, I'm pretty sure we hit it in there too. It is the sound of creation. It is the sound outside of the incoming of sounds. It is the extrasensory sound. It's something that is a hard thing to conceive of if you have not spent your time in prayer, fasting, and meditation, the trinity of actually manifesting things. Now, I speak with some authority here. You don't have to take that. You don't have to believe that. But I have manifested things within my own life. It is the power of God. Never get that twisted. But he allows you to use that power. Jesus told you that. Various other sages through the years have told you the same thing. You can take control of your destiny. You can speak into existence things. You, if you have the faith the size of a mustard seed, can say to the mountain, be cast into the sea, and it will do it. All of these things that I can do, you can do as well, and more. He told you that many times. This is the power that allows that to happen. The things that I talk about is how it works. I have used it in my own life. I have manifested the disappearance of a cyst. I have affected change within myself and some outside of myself. Now, I don't manifest money, so yes, I don't have a lot. I don't manifest the material things in that way. I manifest directions. I manifest God's will. That is part of what I do, and it is what I teach here. It is separate from anything that you are going to get from any of the control systems. And I am not manifesting a control system. I am breaking apart all of the control systems. The key fundamental thing here is that the Trinity is a real thing. The numbers 1, 3, and 8 are extremely important. 1 is God. That is the beginning and the end. It is the all-encompassing all of everything. God is me and you. He is the space between me and you, and he is the space between me and you. He is everything you can see and everything that you cannot see. That is beyond your comprehension. It is beyond my comprehension, and I spend a lot of time on it. But you can get just a little bit of it, and you can understand just a little bit of that. It manifests through the Trinity, right? The manifestation is the body. You were here for a reason, for a purpose, and you were given this body to accomplish that purpose. It manifests in the soul, the individualized piece of the divinity, which is you piloting the body, and it manifests in the Holy Spirit, the part outside of you that allows the becoming to become. That is the Yahweh. And the last number is 8, and that has to refer to the 7 internal chakras and the 1 external chakra that you have the power to access as well. And it is through the manipulation of the spirit, the electromagnetic fundamentals of a reality, which you can manipulate through the will, the soul, into what you wish to happen. When I manifested the healing in my throat, that is what I did. I moved the energy through my chakras and concentrated them into healing in my throat. That is how that worked. I am doing that in other parts of my body, and it is working, but I cannot really expound upon that yet because it is not complete. It is not a right now. It can be, right? You can cast the mountain into the sea, but you better have a damn good reason for doing so. Right? It should not be arbitrary. You should not be manifesting anything materially arbitrarily. There are consequences to be paid for doing so. They are outlined by the 8 laws of creation. The 8 laws of creation fundamentally are how it all works. And if you follow the 8 laws of creation, then you will be in alignment with the will of God. And that will allow you to manifest the things into your life which are of God. I have done this. I'm not mincing words about it, right? I have effected change through the manipulation of electromagnetics by the will of God. That is what I have done. All right, we are going to jump into the next chapter because it is a continuation. This is chapter 9, the manifestation of Yahweh. We're going to see exactly how he deals with this. I just told you how I do. In the preceding chapter, we considered the great name Yahweh, I will be what I will to be, from its historic point of view. We will now endeavor to consider it in its manifestation in and in its relation to the mind exhibited in human organism, and also in its great general manifestation throughout the known and unknown universe. You're gonna tell us about the unknown, okay? It is manifested in the human organism as will. In the will of man resides his only power, and may we not ask, is there any known power in the whole universe that is not will power? What means this wondrous activity in everything? In the small and in the great, in the telescopic and in the microscopic, in what is infinitely beyond the microscopic as well as what is infinitely beyond the telescopic. We quote the following from Camille Flammarion. Thus, stars, suns, planets, worlds, comets, shooting stars, aerolites, all the bodies that compose this vast universe, in a word, are resting, not on solid bases as seemed to be demanded by the primitive and childish conceptions of our ancestors, but on the invisible and immaterial forces which rule and direct their motions. Electromagnetism. These millions and millions of heavenly bodies are endowed with their respective motions for the sake of stability, and are mutually supported by each other across the gulf that separates them. In fact, the entire cortege is moving, flying, falling, rolling, rushing through space, but at such relative distances that all appear to be at rest. That is true. Now, the constitution of the sidereal universe is formed on the same model as that of bodies which we designate as material. All bodies, organic or inorganic, man, animal, plant, stone, iron, bronze, are composed of molecules that are perpetually in motion and never touch. That is another point. These molecules are themselves composed of atoms which do not touch. Each of these atoms is infinitely small and invisible, not only to the eye, not only to the microscope, but even to the thought, since it is possible that these atoms may be nothing more than centers of force. The calculation has been made that in the head of a pin there are no less than 8 sextillion of atoms, or 8,000 times a thousand millions, multiplied by 1,000 millions, and that in a cubic centimeter of air there is a sextillion of molecules. All of these atoms, all of these molecules are in motion under the influence of directing forces, and relatively to their dimensions are separated from each other by wide distances. We may even believe that there is a simple principle, but one description of atoms, and that it is the number of primitive atoms, essentially simple and homogeneous, their manner of arrangement and their motion which determine the diversity of molecules, a molecule of gold or iron differing from a molecule of sulfur, of oxygen, of hydrogen, etc., only in the number, the disposition, and the motion of the primitive atoms of which it is composed, each molecule being a system, a microcosm. That is true. Whatever idea we may adopt, however, is of the essential constitution of bodies, the truth that is recognized today and cannot henceforth be contested is that the motionless point in our imagination has been seeking, has no existence anywheres. Yes, Archimedes may vainly clamor for a place to stand so that he may move the world. Worlds, like atoms, repose on the invisible or on immaterial force. Everything is in motion, solicited by the force of attraction, true, and if in search of that motionless point which flies from us as we pursue it, and which has no existence, since in the infinite the center is everywhere and nowhere. These so-called positivists, who declare with so much assurance that matter alone reigns with its properties, and who smile with disdain upon the researches of thinking men, should first tell us what they mean by that famous word, matter. If they did not stop at the surface of things, if they had any idea that appearances may serve as a cloak for intangible realities, they would doubtless be a little more modest. We will pause here and talk just for a second about the nature of reality. You don't ever touch anything. This is another one of those hard concepts to wrap your mind around, but you can pick something up, right? I've got my phone in my hand right here, but I'm not touching this. I am separated minusculely by electromagnetic force. I feel it. It seems as though I am touching it, but in actuality, I'm not, because everything is in motion. Whether or not you can conceive of that, what he is saying here, that there are atoms. They are separate. We are maintained separate by electromagnetism. And even though it is a minuscule thing, there is a separation between me and the phone. If there was not a separation between me and the phone, then the phone would absorb into my hand. And so, when you pick something up, you're not actually holding it. You don't actually touch it. You feel the electromagnetic dissonance that it contains to you. So, that can be blurry sometimes, right? If you pick up something really hot, that dissonance is different than it is if it is something really cold. Both of those can damage you, by the way, but they damage you in different ways. It is through the dissonance of their atomic structure that it actually hurts you. You don't ever actually touch it. It is the electromagnetism coming off of them that burns you or freezes you or whatever the case may be. You don't ever actually touch anything, nor do you actually ever see anything. What you see is a reflection of light off of something. And the color that you see is not actually that color, but it is rather the absence of that color in the thing that is being reflected back to you. So, in the case of this blue, every frequency except this particular shade of blue is contained in this phone. It is absorbed by this phone case. And the only thing that is reflected back to you is this particular shade of blue. Reality is subjective in small part, not in large part. The laws that rule things govern that. You may not actually see something, right? You see the reflection of it. You may not actually touch something, but those things do exist. There's a lot more to that, but that is in my estimation, it is a good way to explain this very complicated topic, right? And that is basically what he is saying here, right? If you take the time to stop and think about it, then you don't actually touch things because they are moving and they're held away from you by their own structure. As for ourselves, who seek the truth with no preconceived ideas or unbiased in favor of any system, it seems to us that the essence of matter remains to us as mysterious as the essence of force, the visible universe being something entirely different from the form under which it presents itself to our senses, what I just talked about. In fact, the visible universe is composed of invisible atoms. It rests in apparently void space, and the forces which guide it and direct it are themselves immaterial and invisible. It would be a less daring speculation to affirm that matter has no existence, that all is dynamism, that to pretend to declare the existence of a universe that is exclusively material. As to the material support of the world, it is a sufficiently piquant remark to make that it disappeared at exactly the same time that the science of mechanics gained its victories, proclaiming the triumph of the invisible. The highest effort of our intelligence has for its last resting place, for its supreme reality, the infinite. When Flammarion wrote that it was considered very fanciful, but physicists, by experimenting with radioactive substances, have discovered many things concerning the atom which less than 30 years ago they were unable to prove by a single scientific experiment. The atom has always been considered indestructible and indivisible, using Flammarion's language, too small for thought. But the doctrine of the immutability of the atom, which has held sway for almost 2,000 years, has ceased to exist. 30 years later, they split the atom and caused immense destruction. Sir Oliver Lodge says, "It is noteworthy how very small these electrical particles smaller than atoms, called electrons, are compared with the atoms of matter to which they are attached. If an electron is represented by a sphere an inch in diameter, the diameter of an atom of matter on the same scale is 1.5 miles. An atom is not a large thing, but if composed of electrons, the spaces between them are enormous compared with their size, as great relatively as the spaces between the planets in the solar system. Exactly. And it becomes a reasonable hypothesis to surmise that the whole of the atom may be built up of positive and negative electrons interleaved together. The oppositely charged electrons are thought to be of in this hypothesis as flying about inside the atom, as a few thousand specks, like full stops, periods, might fly about inside this hall, forming a kind of cosmic system under their strong mutual forces, and occupying the otherwise empty region of space, which we call the atom, occupying it in the same sense that a few scattered but armed soldiers can occupy a territory, occupying it by forceful activity, not by bodily bulk, or, according to Lord Kelvin, rotating with inconceivable velocity. The hypothesis of Flammarion and many other eminent scientists that the atom may be nothing but the center of force seems to have been proved by Professor Rutherford of Montreal. He has shown that the main fact of radioactivity consists in the throwing away with great violence actual atoms of matter, such as may be stopped by a thin sheet of paper. Of this, Sir Oliver Lodge says, "Their speed, indeed, far exceeds that of any cannonball that ever existed, being as much faster than a cannonball as that is faster than a snail's crawl. 100 times faster than the fastest flying star, these atomic projectiles constitute the fastest moving matter known. There is every reason to believe that a minute scrap of radium, scarcely perceptible to the eye, may go on emitting these energetic projectiles for hundreds of years." Our experience coincides with Sir Oliver's. That whatever hypothesis and speculation we may frame, we cannot exceed the reality and genuine wonder, and believe that the simplicity and beauty of the truth concerning even the material universe, when we know it, will be such as to elicit feelings of reverent awe or adoration. Using a very different process of investigation from what these noted physicists have used, we have reached the same conclusion, namely, that what we call matter is in reality composed of invisible substance, and what we call the atom is only a tremendous reservoir of energy. Even as far back as the time of Descartes, we find that he rejected the atomic hypothesis, holding that there could be no vacuum in the universe, and making matter essentially synonymous with extension. The most illustrious of our modern physicists, Lord Kelvin, considers ether as an elastic solid filling all space, that is plasma. Right? Ether and plasma can be used interchangeably in this work, it appears. If the huge cables that hold up the East River Bridge in New York are composed of atoms, each revolving in its sphere as the planets and suns of the universe, and each atom in itself is a minute solar system comprising a central part, around which 1,000 or more particles revolve, then the questions arise. What is the great strength holding up that mighty structure? What is the power that holds those cables together? What is this apparently solid substance composing the bridge? Why do these electrons always hold their orderly positions? What is this invisible ether through which they fly with such inconceivable velocity? To answer, we are thrown back upon the revelation of that great name, namely, the power of the great name, the will, the I will be what I will to be. The same question may be asked concerning all material substances, but there is no response from modern research but the echoing question, what is it? If we take the Bible revelation, namely, that God in the beginning created the heaven and the earth, and again that God created these things by a word, we then conclude that all is mind, spirit. We know that a word is the expression of a thought sent out by the will, endowed with the potentiality of the will. In the creation of the world, this word must have been endowed with the potentiality of the spirit, the will, Yahweh. The word had the power in itself to make a world make itself, for, from scientific investigation, it has been shown that there is a general trend to the formative processes in all nature. For example, the tiny seed germ in the earth has in it the power to gather to itself material to construct a body according to its kind, character, and quality. And this body, like all other bodies, has the power to hold its own structural integrity. The body of man, which is constantly undergoing a material change, still holds its form until the will fails, or is overcome by a stronger force. Then death comes. What is death? We say it is the absence of life. Yes. What is life? This has been the question of all the ages, and the answer has never been found. Why? Because there is no comparison. Life is, and there is nothing like it. In the Scriptures, God said, I am, and there is none like unto me. And if God, the soul of the universe, is life, life is, and there is nothing like it. And since we can know the qualities of things only by comparison, and there is nothing with which to compare life, it is impossible to answer the question, what is life? Tennyson realized this truth when he wrote these beautiful lines. Flower in the crannied walls, I pluck you out of the crannies, hold you here, root and all, in my hand. Little flower, but if I could understand what you are, root and all in all, I should know what God and man is. In trying to answer the question, what is life, we cannot stop with organized life as we know it, for there is an abundant evidence that all space and all substance is filled with quivering, dancing, sparkling life. Inanimate matter, a phrase much used 25 years ago, has now given place to the life of matter. M. Bose, whose ingenious experiments we have before mentioned, has shown that matter reveals more and more the qualities which were formerly attributed to living beings only. Gustave Le Bon says, physiologists measure, as is well known, the sensitiveness of being by the degree of excitation necessary in order to obtain from it a reaction. The being is considered very sensitive when it acts under slight stimuli. Applying similar tests to brute matter, we can show that the most rigid substance and the least sensitive in appearance, a bar of metal, for example, is really incredibly sensitive. We know that when the body dies, something leaves it. The materialists say that when the life dies, But whom shall we believe? The materialists, who are few in number compared with those who believe in spirit, or the great majority of mankind that believe in the existence of the soul after the dissolution of the body? The very scientific materialism of our day, writes Professor Hyslop in the North American Review, points definitely to the possibility, or at least the rationality, of supposing the possibility of a future life. Physical science admits the existence of a supersensible world of reality which had not been suspected or proved until within recent years. We may instance Roentgen rays, the various forms of radioactive energy, whose whole gamut is not yet known, and the speculations about ions and electrons that take us far beyond the world of Lucretian atoms into the measureless ether, whose properties make it impossible to apply the term matter to it, without removing the antagonism of matter to the spiritual. All these discoveries represent realities quite as supersensible as the Christian conception of the immaterial, and we escape calling them spiritual only because the development of human thought has come to confine the connotation of spirit to implications of consciousness, as is necessary and only function. I'm different. It is this, and this alone, that prevents us from claiming that the outcome of physical science is the proof of a spiritual world. We have so defined the nature and problem of spirit as implicative of personal consciousness that there can be no proof of its reality apart from the animal organism and its functions, until we show that consciousness and personal identity can survive death. All that the discovery of supersensible forms of energy proves is that the limitations of reality are not confined to the material world as we directly know it, but that there may be vast regions of energy which can be inferred or known only by its effects in the physical cosmos. I am satisfied that more than 3/4 of all men and women have had positive proof, if they would accept it, of the existence of spirit. I say positive proof if they would accept it because skepticism has become so popular and universal that men have been taught to deny their own senses. But among those that are not yet ready to deny the evidence of their own senses are a great majority who in their hearts can say, I know there is such a thing as spirit existence, and even those who claim to be the strongest materialists have evidence within themselves that they are wrong. Yes, everything has life. All life is motion, and it is the life of the body that keeps the body intact, supports it, and maintains it. And if we examine carefully this life, not only in our body but in everything that is, we find even the smallest insect and plant acting according to the law of mind, evidencing that it thinks or that thought is active in it. If this be true, then can we help concluding that all is mind? Then we justify the scriptural declaration that God, by mind, by a word, created the world. In examining our own mind, we find that we have reasons for action. But, however powerful the thoughts or reasons may be, unless we will to act, we remain motionless. Then the will to act seems to be another quality in us, which quality, when called into action by the other faculties of the mind, tenses the muscles and causes motion, the will to act. This again brings us to the revelation of the name of the infinite, Yahweh, the I will be what I will to be, or the will of the universe. Since we are dependent upon our own will for the power to act, then is not action, no matter in what form it may be found, the result of the power of will? Again, according to the strength of a man's will is the strength of his body. Let a man become angry. See how the red blood, obeys the mandates of his will. Men have often been heard to say, when I am angry, I am stronger than any other circumstances. What is anger? It is the excitement of the will. In the ordinary individual, the will may be excited to such an extent that it actually controls the intellect. And when this power is sufficiently excited to take control of the reasoning powers, then we say the individual has lost his reason, or he is mad. It is the function of all willpower to obey the intellect. In other words, to be a servant. But when the understanding is set aside by the will, then evil is manifest. Since these things are true, is there any evil in the world except that resulting from the will dominating the intellect? We believe not. Let us return to the potentiality of the will. We have seen that the strength of man depends upon the strength of will, and if Yahweh is the will of the universe, then he, or it, is the strength of all that is. We know that when the mind leaves the body rapidly disintegrates, that so long as the will and all the faculties of mind are kept active, the body is healthy, strong, and vigorous. What is it that holds together the atoms or centers of force in the body of man? In the mighty cable, in the great beam, in the keen edge of the sword. As we look at these objects and examine them with our senses, we cannot but believe that they are dense, hard, and solid. Since they are not, what is it that appears dense, hard, and solid in this seething, moving mass? Is it not the same power that enables you to reach out your arm and lay hold of a weight of 25, 50, or 100 pounds and lift it by bending your arm? Yes, it is. It is the Spirit. You will, and the arm moves and lifts ponderable objects. Then it is the will that moves the arm, is it not? Since God is the creator of all things, the power of the universe, and his name is Yahweh, I will be what I will to be, and since all is life, and that life is served by the will, then the strength of your arm, or that piece of steel, of that beam, of that mighty cable, is the strength of the will of the infinite. It is the manifestation of the will, Yahweh. And the solution of the infinitely small, may we not arrive at the solution of the infinitely great? In the limitless universe, the same will holds all worlds, suns, and systems in their place. Since all is life, boundless, quivering, moving, active life, and since what we call individualized substances, a piece of steel, a crystal, a plant, an animal, a man, are individualized centers of thought, and since all these centers of thought and forces unite to make up one grand body that we call our planet, and since our planet Earth is only one electron, as it were, of our solar system, which is a great grand atom, and since our universe is made up of multitudes of these atoms, then is it not possible that multitudes of universes make one great body? We are told that there are no bounds to space, that there is no limit to God's universe, and that we may reasonably conclude that all these universes are molecules, as it were, making up one grand body. And this body is the life, the substance of divinity. That all these universes are governed by the indwelling mind which we call God, that all movements of the heavenly bodies, as well as earthly bodies, telescopic as well as microscopic, are by virtue of the infinite will. The strength in the cable is the strength of the Almighty will, the strength, the power that gives to everything its bounds. The rules of existence. He gave to the sea its bound, and the waters should not pass his commandment. Proverbs 8:29. Therefore the revelation that the name of the Almighty is Yahweh, the I will be what I will to be, has furnished a conception by which we may form at least an idea of the all-pervading mind and executive will of the God of all systems, if not universes. We know something of the actions of the will in the body. Is something the matter with the foot? The mind takes cognizance of it and sends to the foot willpower. How does it send that will from the head to the extremities of the body? I can tell you. Can you tell us? We may talk of nerve force, of electric currents, and so on, but how little we know of that which we call electricity. We see a man who lives a high moral life, so filled with electricity that by a little friction he can light the gas with his fingers. And this force seems to be the same that has been harnessed to run our railroads, and to serve in our various industries, and this will, Yahweh, the God of the universe, may express itself, from one end of the universe to the other, by the agency that we call electricity, electromagnetism. It is intricately linked, or some element to us more subtle, and caused to be or not to be according to infinite law, in the same way that we take charge of and control our own bodies. Yes. Thus, in considering Yahweh to be the God and power of the universe, we may safely say that, as in the minute man, the microcosm, So in God, the macrocosm, the mind that fills all space, all worlds, all systems, the one God, the one mind, the one force, making of all that we call separate individuals or universes. The quotations in this chapter come from the ablest minds of our time, and they unite in proving that the best thoughts of the age came to about the same conclusions that Revelation came to centuries ago. And they thus give circumstantial proof of the truth of Revelation. They also give evidence that the human mind, if left free to act from its higher self, is led by that higher and spiritual individuality to the same conclusions that were announced by prophets and seers in ages past. The only thing that now remains is for scientists to recognize the language. For now, science and revelation meet as strangers from a far country, but one day they will meet as friends. Then they will see eye to eye and rejoice in the mutual light of each other's mentality, a light which neither can claim as all his own. Footnotes. There is another force in nature that acts very much like electricity. It will give a spark of light, but it has in it no heat. This is as yet a comparatively unknown force. It acts quicker than electricity, and it is much stronger and much more potential than electricity, as electricity is more potential than water. This marvelous force is interior to all the forces that we thus far know and utilize, and is waiting the higher development of our race for its discovery and utilization. It fills all space, and is next beyond electricity in ether reality, and it is the most potent of any element that can be made sensible to the human consciousness. That he's talking about plasma. As it evidently governs the action of electricity, we have given it the name of electroarchon, in order that the thought of it may have a standing in the mind of the people. And that's where we're going to begin wrapping this up. I do not fully disagree with this. Where I have expressed it, so I don't have a whole lot to expound upon here other than to relay experience, right? I cannot give you my experience. I can only tell you about it. What I have been able to accomplish through the will of God, never get that messed up, is the manipulation of these forces. I can do it. I can see it in others. I can see it surrounding me if I allow myself to do so. If I relax and withdraw into myself, I can look out into the world and I can see the subtle fields. I have been able to manipulate those subtle fields within myself to effect change within myself. I have also done that externally at least one time on purpose, and I suffer the consequences of doing so, so I am reluctant to do so anymore. That is in accordance with the 8 laws of creation, which I have referenced several times for a reason. You also are able to do this. It takes work. You're not going to be able to just want to and make it happen. It takes prayer, fasting, and meditation. It takes deep introspection. It takes working through your issues and understanding and aligning yourself with the will of God. All of those things are absolutely necessary in order to do this to any significant degree. I have done that, right? I don't make any bones about that. I have, and somebody who is a psychiatrist may look at this and say, oh, this guy's a schizophrenic, and you're welcome to think that, right? I'm not. I know what I'm talking about in this at least, and I can only express to you that I have done it. I cannot give you that experience. I can tell you how I've done it. I can outline the various methods of achieving it yourself, but you have to go forth and achieve it for yourself. The concepts that we discussed here are integral to making that happen. I do believe that it is possible to effect change out of yourself, right? I have done that on one occasion, and that can be dismissed, and I could understand that happening. But what I have done within myself, I have no doubt about. I have no doubt whatsoever that the body, the mind, and the becoming, acting in concert, have given me the ability to do this. I believe that this is what was described by Jesus. You don't have to, right? I'm not here to convince you. I am here to just tell you things that are true. You don't have to believe that they're true. I'm not going to fight you about it. I'm trying as best as I can to describe the things that I know in a way that you can understand them and know them yourself. But I cannot give you the knowing. Hopefully I brought a little bit of enlightenment and not too much confusion to a series of somewhat complicated topics. I understand that I have some unconventional beliefs and that I have a tendency to step on toes when I relay that. It is not intentional, but I do not apologize for it. If I spent all my time apologizing, I would never be able to get anything else done. If you like what I'm doing over here, let me know down below. Give me a like, share, and a sub. Throw me a comment. If you agree or disagree, if it remains respectful, it gets to remain up. And if you really like what I'm doing over here, hit me with the super thanks, because I do not manifest money. To the crew, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate every single minute that you are here with me, and I am praying for you every single day. Until next time, I love you. God loves you. You are perfect, whole, and complete just the way that you are. And this has been Pitt's Take. Peace.